Hi, I'm Helen Van Wyk and welcome to my studio. Today I'm going to show you my favorite thing about painting. It's blending colors, it's making blending still make things look real. And as I talked about last week, how important nature dictates certain things. Nature dictates balance. Nature also dictates balance in brushwork. We put it on one way and affect it the other. But rather than tell you about it, let me show you how. And my victim today, as you can see, is an old black cooking pot and red onions. Let me get them composed and situated on the canvas first, as usual. Put these two together first, and then this black pot's going to be in here. I'm going to race right through that because, oh, I have something so much fun to show you. And something that a lot of you would like to know, because it is true that we go to a painting teacher to learn principles, and I hope that I am teaching you some, but also to be aware or get in on that person's experience. So I'm going to show you how I go about painting a smooth background. And I'm going to make the background green behind this pot. Why? Because I like it that way. I like that color against black. And it's going to be light green. So I've taken phthalo yellow, green, and white. I'm going to paint the whole background in strokes no bigger than 1.5 inches. And not with one monotonous color, but a little bit of variety. I'm sure you have a view now of what I'm doing. You can see it up close. Don't you see the slight little nuances of color? I'm leaving room for the cast shadow. And now I would like to have my background get slightly darker as it moves over here toward the light. So the light looks as though it's going that way. So here I'm going to use, I put a little sap green into that mixture and put that in here. Not thinking of making it smooth, just thinking about covering it, getting the paint on. I think by now you've probably heard me mention Roscoe, Maximilian Aurel Roscoe, the man I studied with. Hungarian. He used to say, Helen, make it, break it, and make it again. I thought, what is he talking about? This is what he was talking about. He was saying, make it out of paint. And let me get that all in. Coming up with a funny color. Ah, that's better. Darker green and shadowed green, by the way. I shadowed it with red, the complementary color. But that's another story. I want to stick to what is important today, and that is blending. Blending and brushwork. There's the color of the cast shadow. Isn't it nice that this dark color on this side is balanced by this color over here? So I've made it. Make it. I always think having an accent is more impressive. And now I'm going to break it in that I'm going to blend it all together with a big brush. Because now I have something. Oh, that brush is a little, I'd like to have a little softer. Maybe this one. Ah. See, once the paint is down, you can take a bigger brush and fuse it together in strokes no longer than 1.5 inches. With embedded into the smoothness is some excitement of color. And here I want to show you what I call poopsie-doo. I call it that because I don't know what else to call it. I want this color to blend with this color, but I want to maintain the shape. Even though the shape is funny, I want it. And so this is how I'm going to make it to blend. I'm going to make teeth. That blends them together. And if you keep your brush right on the canvas, don't go this way and this way, because then you take this color and slop it into there, and then you take this and slop it into here. It's just a little bit of a thing, a little poopsie-doo, so that you can then blend it in opposite from it. So you make it. I've just, as Roscoe said, break it, and now I'm going to make it again. Well, let's see how that background acts with the copper, I keep calling that copper. It's a black pot. I've had it for years. I don't cook in that one. Ooh, no. I always start in the middle. Isn't that a safe place? Why start with the edges? They're too difficult. I'll sneak up on them. I didn't wash the canvas down with enough turpentine today, and so my paint isn't spreading enough. And I could use that same blending on painting this pot. We learn one good thing and put it to use all the time. It's just like peeling potatoes. You know, you get a way of being able to peel a potato well, and you use it all the time. You don't say, I think I'll do it differently just for the sake of being different. We do it because it's efficient. And so this is this orangey black, burnt sienna and black, here for the light side of the pot. And that over there is this dark shadow, made it out of blue, the complementary to orange. I'll get into that. Oh, look what I did here. No harm. Here's this poopsie-doo again. I want this color and this color to blend together to make the pot look round. So that I could take this big brush again and blend it together. What if I wanted to add another lighter tone? Across and down. Oops. Got to clean your blender brush as you go, though. Put on one way, affect it the other. Make it, break it, and make it again. So it starts to look round. Let me step back, see what this looks like from a distance, so that I can get on to finishing all up in here and get on to these onions, because I know you're dying to see how this process works on onions too. Let me show you how this make it, break it, make it again, or poopsie-doo works on painting these onions. Let me start out by sketching them in. You can see I made some preparation for this next lesson. This is going to be that one onion, the back one. This is going to be the one that's on its side. Oop! Take all that paint, Helen. And this one that's hugging the pot. With a cloth, I like to wipe away where I have paint so I can start nice and clean. Let me try this one first. You can see that on an onion, if you look at the subject matter, that there are stripes coming this way. Well, that's the final result. That's what I want to end up with. Don't be greedy and go for the jugular vein right away, for the final effect right away. Save it for the last strokes, because this onion also goes around this way. So it goes this way and it goes this way, and it's this way that I'm going to put my paint on first. With a nice bright color here to represent the highlight. And the more color I use right now, the better, because a lot of color now is going to withstand the blending process. If you start out with a little bit of color, the blending process makes you end up with no color. Ooh, I like that. And we can't neglect putting in a shadow. And it's over here. Now, the whole bottom of this onion is being influenced by the white cloth, which is going to make a reflection, but I think I'll add that on later. Well, maybe I should have a little bit of paint down there. It was someone much wiser than I who said, if you want to test your courage, you do not have to go to war. Just try the arts. Because, let's see what is going to happen here. Let me take a nice soft brush and poopsie-doo. You see, I can't paint every little thing about that onion. It'd be too tedious. I can just paint an effect of it, a rhythm of application, a brushwork that suggests it. Hair is done the same way. So I put the paint down, smooth it out, and accentuate it again. Make it, break it, and make it. If it doesn't work, you wipe it out and start again. You don't go in and start picking at it, because it just ends up that all the paint gets all mushed together. Let me try this one over here. And again, starting with a nice thick gob for the highlight. This lovely, there's manganese violet. Might as well put the reflection in now while I'm at it. But this has an interesting wrinkle. has a cast shadow over it from the pot, throwing this whole section in shadow. Now let's see what this moving will do. Let me try this brush. Ah. One more to go before I step back and see how they look from a distance. So load your brush. Make sure you always load the brush when you're painting a highlight. Make it bigger than it is so the next thing cuts it down. But I'm going all opposite from the final appearance, saving that for the last. Brushwork. How to get that darker. Now this looks rather mechanical when you do it. But if you put it down, where's that brush I had? There it is. It at least gets you to a general overall effect. And then with some tender loving care, you can add a little peculiarity to it, such as the fact that it is the blossom end here. Now, before I can put the reflections effect on this color, I really have to have the what's causing the reflection, and that's this white cloth. And the cast shadows from them on the cloth. I always like to say that when you're going to add something that you think is extremely important, which of course is a reflection, if reflection is an important tone value, police the area. Prepare the canvas for this added attraction. Get it all ready. In demonstrating these pointers or these factors to you, alla prima meaning all at once, I have to use thick paint. Next time we meet, next time you visit my studio, I'm going to show you the technique of the old masters, and I'll have a chance to be using thinner paint, thus getting much finer results. I hope. Always hope. Now I like to show you the reflection in that this light condition down here is going to bounce up into these shiny onions. I always say that the reflection marries the object to its environment. It adjusts it. It makes it enjoy its circumstances. Gray, the beauty of gray, grayed color. Make a grayed color. I studied with a man when I was very young. His name was Ralph Entwistle. He always said, Helen, when in doubt, use gray. It's a doubtful color. And very often you see doubtfully colored places. Oops, not there though. Well, yeah, it's kind of whitish. You can see I'm always putting it on one way and affecting it opposite from the way I put it on. Cast shadows make things sit down. So you sit down, darn you. Don't float in midair on me. That made it sit down a little bit better. By having light go in back of an object, like here, suddenly it jumps it out. So I've been putting things on one way and influencing it opposite from the way I put it on in the first place. One thing you're going to do is you're going to get good coverage. How many of you have ever had to paint a room? Don't you kind of put it on this way and go up and down and smooth it in? We very often are frightened by the awesome thing that painting is about. We feel as though something else does it, except instead of just some practical horse sense. Be clever about it instead of frightened. You have nothing to fear. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Could get it all wrong. But look at the fun you've had. Woohoo. Let me step back from this and see what it looks like from a distance. Stepping back is such a valuable thing to do because you see it from a distance. And what have I seen from a distance? What I've seen is I feel as though everything looks as though it's going to fall off the table. So I'm going to raise this up. And in raising this up, I'm not going to just go to that line. I'm going to go into it. I'm not going to wreck it. I wreck it if I just go to it. It's much better to go into it and then repair it. See, then it looks as though it jumps forward. I wonder if I'm raising it enough. Yes, I'd like to raise it here too. And raise it over here without, I got to make sure I don't get a kiss. Go into it. I'll even enlarge it for the sake of making that correction more effective. And this doesn't seem to have a shadow under it either. And so here we are, again, with all the tone values in and the picture done. And next week, when we meet, I'm going to teach you the technique of the old masters, or maybe I really will teach you how to make soup. Hi, I'm Helen Van Wyk. Hi, I'm Helen Van Wyk, and welcome to my studio. Today I'm going to show you the technique of the old masters. I'm going to try to, anyway. They had so little and did so much. We have so much, but I'm not going to continue that sentence. They had to economize on their paint, and so there was a way that they thought would be handy. They did what is called an underpainting and saved the coloration for glazes. The underpainting was done in tempera, which was a fast-drying water-based medium, and really the origin of our paints today. Into tempera, the oil painters added more oil, and the watercolorists added more water to this basic emulsion. I've set up a still life, a rather oriental theme, and I'll show you briefly how an underpainting would go. I have a darkened canvas since I'm working with acrylic, which is the 20th century's answer to a tempera. I don't have to worry about coverage. Acrylic covers fantastically well. And so I'll have a tray here. How do I get it that round? Years of drinking. And then this is going to be here, and here, and then these are going to be in here. I'm not going to bother drawing them because it's going to take up too much time. If I'm going to show you the technique of the old masters, I need as much time as I can get. I'm just going to show you how an underpainting would be done of this brass tray. An underpainting is a tonal evaluation. For instance, I'm going to put a very light tone here to represent the highlight. And I'm going to put a very light tone up here to represent the highlight on its rim. This object has only two anatomies. That's Hungarian plural for anatomy. And a highlight hits per anatomy. So if we have two, you get two highlights. One, two. This is on its concave, and this is on its rim. And so I would put in the values that I see to make this tray. This tray is casting a shadow on the background. There's a dark shadow here because of the concavity is stopping the light from going in there. And the highlight, you see, I have over here. That middle tone, I'll just repaint to get the blend between the two. And I think if you squint your eyes at this, squinting always helps because you see what the paint is trying to do rather than what the paint is itself. Because after all, paint is a medium. It's a way. It's a means to an end. And so I think you can see that these tone values are starting to make this tray look concave. And so the entire picture, all that you see over there in that still life, would be interpreted just with tones of light and dark. And the underpainting then is a foundation for all the colors that I can put in on top. I always like to say that an underpainting is like underwear or a foundation garment. It makes you look better in the end. Well, so let me not take the time to do all these objects because from a standpoint of instruction, you have already found out that this tray can be concave in shape by just putting in the tone values. So let me stop for just a moment and bring in my other underpainting to show you what glazes will do to an underpainting. Yes, you can see that I have painted all the values, not the color, just the light and the dark of all these objects. I'm going to glaze the color on. This glaze should not be confused with the word used in glazing pottery. Pottery adds a texture. I'm going to actually add the color. the glazes are transparent applications. All these colors are transparent. The only thing that makes oil paint opaque is white. Well, I don't need white. I've got all the values all situated right here. So I'm going to thin these colors to apply the color, and I have my thinner in this little bucket. It's a painting medium made of linseed oil, Damar varnish, and turpentine. One time, Sargent dipped into his medium and did something brilliant. And someone said, "Mr. Sargent, what are you mixing with your paint?" And he said, "Brains." So I know many people wonder about medium. Medium is just the stuff to thin the paint to make it possible. So one of the things you have to do when you glaze is to keep your colors as immaculate as possible, because you don't want to get them contaminated with dirty turpentine or dirty medium. So I have it in this cute little can. And why don't I show you what cadmium yellow medium, thinned with medium, see how it is on the palette? See what that does to this underpainting. Ooh. See where I have the value very light? The color is getting light and bright. Where this color is now, I'm going to darken it just a little bit now with raw sienna. Look what happens when the color goes over the darker tone of gray. Because this is so thin, I know the vernacular isn't that fancy, I can slop that color out into the background, because I'll do the background next. And the background's going to be more of a dominant color. It can overtake this. Now, if the glaze gets a little too heavy, we can dip a rag in this medium and bring the value back. Glazing is a way of painting. And one of the advantages of glazing over a monochrome, this is being mono 1 chrome color, a monochrome of black and white, is that we don't get this terrible, unhandy buildup of paint. This is thin, so it's going to be able to withstand quite a bit of further development, I hope. Because the glazing, even though it is making a rather satisfactory look of brass, the glazing process is never the final application. It's a means to an end. Doesn't that really look nice and shiny? I'd love to paint this way. In fact, I incorporate glazing in all my painting procedures and techniques. I feel as though the underpainting is a security blanket too. Gives me a chance to think only of contrasts, gives me a chance just to think of composition, and know that I still have a process to make lovely color. Now, the old masters did get very luminous color, and glazing does give you a luminosity. I always say they were just being practical. They didn't want to waste their paint on making the object. They wanted to waste their color on making the object. They wanted to save their color to color the object that they've already made. So they got and they weren't looking for luminosity. They just got it as a fringe benefit by this technique. Ooh, wow, isn't that a nice, wonderful, brilliant blue? And look how little I've used. That really does please my Holland heart. I always feel as though I can take a stab at Rembrandt, since he was Holland and I'm Holland descent. They say he was left-handed, too, as I am. I guess you've noticed. So was Leonardo, and so was Da Vinci, and so was Sandy Colfax. So he had a pretty good aim. You need that in painting. Good aim. And so this green of this old ginger pot is being introduced. And this slight celery color on this blue pot before I put on the blue design. Maybe I can get that with a very thin glaze. More medium and a little bit of paint to take away the uninteresting plain black and white of the underpainting. You never should leave any of your underpainting show. I hope this red really does fly off into some wonderful, ooh. Now, if I want that red darker, I could make my glaze thicker. Ooh, why didn't I put a little bit of color on that little blue thing? Well, it's not blue, it's white with blue on it. Put a little yellow on it. A little yellow never hurts. We're used to a yellow light. Our sun gives us a warm yellowish light. You see, in the days of Rembrandt, electricity surely wasn't around. He was accustomed to painting with one source of light from one window. He saw beautiful shadows because one source of light always does give you beautiful shadows. So I always like to say he wasn't really very talented. He just didn't have electricity. I got to get back at him somehow. Fantastic work. And even colorless black, the background, can't be glazed just with black. It has to be a colorful black. Black with, I think I'll even put a little red in that too. A still life painter ends up to be a collector of stuff too. I happen to enjoy Oriental things, along with all the other things I like. Baskets and medals. I'm going to show you how to paint silver. I try to collect that too. Although I do feel these more earthy things are fun. But if you paint, even if things are unfamiliar to you, or to anyone, if you paint things looking as though they shine because of the light striking, you can paint something that is unfamiliar and the person recognizes it because he might not know the object, but he can see the light. Hallelujah. So this is the glazing process started, and let me step back and see what's happened so I can further continue it with either more glazes or the way glazed areas usually are developed. Yes, I see that my glazing over and underpainting has established the body tones or the basic values. It hasn't really given me the pizzazz that I want to give it, but I can easily put that on because that comes from more contrast. Let me show you. With a little bit of white, now this is some direct applications on top of this glaze, I can accentuate. I don't want to lose it. I'm just going to put it where I feel as though I need it. Right in here. Maybe get it a little bit lighter. and maybe lighten it over here. And with a heavier glaze, maybe using some burnt umber and burnt sienna, who knows whether it will work or not, I'll put it in here, yes. Roscoe used to say, Helen, if you know what you're doing, you can do it with a broomstick, but use a sable brush, it's easier. But your finger sometimes will blend it in. Now I see a delightful red reflection up from here into the brass. So a glaze adds the red onto the brass without really digging into the overall wonderful solidity of the object. We don't want our tone values to break up the anatomy. Now, all patterns are best put on in a glazing method. Why? Because if you glaze the pattern on, the pattern will wrap around the dimension that you've already established in the underpainting. That carries that blue over on this side kind of nicely, doesn't it? I don't have to worry about whether this blue is going to get darker in shadow. It's going to get darker anyway because it's being glazed over the darker tone that I've already established. I also think that it would be nice to try to make this little green ginger pot stand out more. So I'm going to accentuate the dark with more dark, accentuate that dark hole, but it seems as though I'm going to have to use some brighter accents. So green into white. Aha, that helps it. I never have too much of a firm, preconceived idea as to how this picture has to look. I'm willing to go along with it. Yes, I have a procedure that is my discipline to accomplish it, but how do I know? I really don't know. I don't have a guarantee wrapped around the handle of my brush. I only have hope. Hope that it's going to look acceptable, fitting, and that nothing stands out as glaringly wrong. Remember my philosophy for keeping my sanity? If I make it all wrong, it's all right. There's no such thing as perfect. So don't try for it. Here's the highlight hitting on the apex. Well, right here is where the light seems to be hitting it. This kind of light. And how nice the highlight is to apply onto this glazed surface. I'm not trying to overcome the thick paint that established the little green vase that I like so much. My husband doesn't like that vase. But, well, I just have to go on another shopping trip and find more vases. And this little blue thing needs highlights to give it a little bit of a spark. The spark of its shiny texture. And when I do that, it seems to activate the glaze. Makes it sing a little. Ooh, I don't know whether I want to do that. I'd like to keep that. Kind of a low statement. You can always glaze it heavier too. Off-white, white, black, a little yellow too. Ooh, I didn't make that light enough. This, I found the underpainting was too dark. Yes, the success of your glazing comes from having your values right. I think many of you who have gotten to know me already through my many shows know that I'm always thinking in terms of tone, that the tone of the color is the most important factor of the color. And surely this lesson proves that. And now I'm going to use darker red. The glazing process sometimes gives you paint that's too bright. You get a chance to mute it down. In fact, just another version of the basic principles, the reliable basic principles, that a picture is made of 7 components. I'm going to lighten the background. Do I dare? I don't know. Let me try. I could spend hours on that background. Backgrounds really need a lot of devotion. But let me see how this is coming along. I need some lighter tone over here. Yes. Composition, shape, tone, color, the way the paint looks, the way you make your edges. These are the things that we learn. Not just a manner. I'm going to add another highlight here, another highlight here, and here, and here. And I think I'm going to darken this. We really don't know exactly how the old masters painted, but I have spent some time in Holland, and I visited a very small museum in Friesland, and I saw a painting half finished, and it had an underpainting, and it had glazes. But to know exactly how they worked is just speculation. To say we know exactly, say he did this and he did that and he felt this way and he felt this way. I love what Roscoe used to say when people were speculating about that. He says, "Was you there, Charlie?" And I'd like to go on and paint more on this. And I think I've shown you pretty much what the technique is all about. And next time we meet, I'm going to paint apples, my favorite subject. Or maybe I'll teach you how to make soup. Hi, I'm Helen Van Wyk, and welcome to my studio. Today I'm going to show you my favorite thing about painting. It's blending colors, it's making blending still make things look real. And as I talked about last week, how important nature dictates certain things. Nature dictates balance. Nature also dictates balance in brushwork. We put it on one way and affect it the other. But rather than tell you about it, let me show you how. And my victim today, as you can see, is an old black cooking pot and red onions. Let me get them composed and situated on the canvas first, as usual. Put these two together first, and then this black pot's going to be in here. I'm going to race right through that because, oh, I have something so much fun to show you. And something that a lot of you would like to know, because it is true that we go to a painting teacher to learn principles, and I hope that I am teaching you some, but also to be aware or get in on that person's experience. So I'm going to show you how I go about painting a smooth background. And I'm going to make the background green behind this pot. Why? Because I like it that way. I like that color against black. And it's going to be light green. So I've taken phthalo yellow, green, and white. I'm going to paint the whole background in strokes no bigger than 1.5 inches. And not with one monotonous color, but a little bit of variety. I'm sure you have a view now of what I'm doing. You can see it up close. Don't you see the slight little nuances of color? I'm leaving room for the cast shadow. And now I would like to have my background get slightly darker as it moves over here toward the light. So the light looks as though it's going that way. So here I'm going to use, I put a little sap green into that mixture and put that in here. Not thinking of making it smooth, just thinking about covering it, getting the paint on. I think by now you've probably heard me mention Roscoe, Maximilian Aurel Roscoe, the man I studied with. Hungarian. He used to say, Helen, make it, break it, and make it again. I thought, what is he talking about? This is what he was talking about. He was saying, make it out of paint. And let me get that all in. Coming up with a funny color. Oh, that's better. Darker green and shadowed green, by the way. I shadowed it with red, the complementary color. But that's another story. I want to stick to what is important today, and that is blending. Blending and brushwork. There's the color of the cast shadow. Isn't it nice that this dark color on this side is balanced by this color over here? So I've made it. Make it. just think having an accent is more impressive. And now I'm going to break it in that I'm going to blend it all together with a big brush. Because now I have something, oh, that brush is a little, I'd like to have a little softer, maybe this one. Ah. See, once the paint is down, you can take a bigger brush and fuse it together in strokes no longer than 1.5 inches. With embedded into the smoothness is some excitement of color. And here I want to show you what I call poopsie-doo. I call it that because I don't know what else to call it. I want this color to blend with this color, but I want to maintain the shape. Even though the shape is funny, I want it. And so this is how I'm going to make it to blend. I'm going to make teeth. That blends them together. And if you keep your brush right on the canvas, don't go this way and this way, because then you take this color and slop it into there, and then you take this and slop it into here. It's just a little bit of a thing, a little poopsie-doo, so that you can then blend it in opposite from it. So you make it. I've just, as Roscoe said, break it, and now I'm going to make it again. Well, let's see how that background acts with the copper, I keep calling that copper. It's a black pot. I've had it for years. I don't cook in that one. Ooh, no. I always start in the middle. Isn't that a safe place? Why start with the edges? They're too difficult. I'll sneak up on them. I didn't wash the canvas down with enough turpentine today, and so my paint isn't spreading enough. And I could use that same blending on painting this pot. We learn one good thing and put it to use all the time. It's just like peeling potatoes. You know, you get a way of being able to peel a potato well, and you use it all the time. You don't say, I think I'll do it differently just for the sake of being different. We do it because it's efficient. And so this is this orangey black, burnt sienna and black, here for the light side of the pot. And that over there is this dark shadow, made it out of blue, the complementary to orange. I'll get into that. Oh, look what I did here. No harm. Here's this poopsie-doo again. I want this color and this color to blend together to make the pot look round. So that I could take this big brush again and blend it together. What if I wanted to add another lighter tone? Across and down. Oops. Got to clean your blender brush as you go, though. affect it the other. Make it, break it, and make it again. So it starts to look round. Let me step back, see what this looks like from a distance, so that I can get on to finishing all up in here and get on to these onions, because I know you're dying to see how this process works on onions too. Let me show you how this make it, break it, make it again, or poopsie-doo works on painting these onions. Let me start out by sketching them in. You can see I made some preparation for this next lesson. This is going to be that one onion, the back one. This is going to be the one that's on its side. Oop! Take all that paint, Helen. And this one that's hugging the pot. With a cloth, I like to wipe away where I have paint so I can start nice and clean. Let me try this one first. You can see that on an onion, if you look at the subject matter, that there are stripes coming this way. Well, that's the final result. That's what I want to end up with. Don't be greedy and go for the jugular vein right away, for the final effect right away. Save it for the last strokes, because this onion also goes around this way. So it goes this way and it goes this way, and it's this way that I'm going to put my paint on first. With a nice bright color here to represent the highlight. And the more color I use right now, the better, because a lot of color now is going to withstand the blending process. If you start out with a little bit of color, the blending process makes you end up with no color. Ooh, I like that. And we can't neglect putting in a shadow. And it's over here. Now, the whole bottom of this onion is being influenced by the white cloth, which is going to make a reflection, but I think I'll add that on later. Well, maybe I should have a little bit of paint down there. It was someone much wiser than I who said, if you want to test your courage, you do not have to go to war. Just try the arts. Because, let's see what is going to happen here. Let me take a nice soft brush and poopsie-doo. You see, I can't paint every little thing about that onion. It'd be too tedious. I can just paint an effect of it, a rhythm of application, a brushwork that suggests it. Hair is done the same way. So I put the paint down, smooth it out, and accentuate it again. Make it, break it, and make it. If it doesn't work, you wipe it out and start again. you don't go in and start picking at it, because it just ends up that all the paint gets all mushed together. Let me try this one over here. And again, starting with a nice thick gob for the highlight. This lovely, there's manganese violet. Might as well put the reflection in now while I'm at it. But this has an interesting wrinkle. It has a cast shadow over it from the pot, throwing this whole section in shadow. Now let's see what this moving will do. Let me try this brush. One more to go before I step back and see how they look from a distance. So load your brush. Make sure you always load the brush when you're painting a highlight. Make it bigger than it is so the next thing cuts it down. But I'm going all opposite from the final appearance, saving that for the last. Brushwork. How to get that darker. Now this looks rather mechanical when you do it. But if you put it down, where's that brush I had? There it is. It at least gets you to a general overall effect. And then with some tender, loving care, you can add a little peculiarity to it, such as the fact that it is the blossom end here. Now, before I can put the reflections effect on this color, I really have to have the what's causing the reflection, and that's this white cloth. And the cast shadows from them on the cloth. I always like to say that when you're going to add something that you think is extremely important, which of course is a reflection, if reflection is an important tone value, police the area. Prepare the canvas for this added attraction. Get it all ready. demonstrating these pointers or these factors to you alla prima meaning all at once. I have to use thick paint. Next time we meet, next time you visit my studio, I'm going to show you the technique of the old masters, and I'll have a chance to be using thinner paint, thus getting much finer results. I hope. Always hope. Now I like to show you the reflection in that this light condition down here is going to bounce up into these shiny onions. I always say that the reflection marries the object to its environment. It adjusts it. It makes it enjoy its circumstances. Gray, the beauty of gray, grayed color. Make a grayed color. I studied with a man when I was very young. His name was Ralph Entwistle. He always said, Helen, when in doubt, use gray. It's a doubtful color. And very often you see doubtfully colored places. Oops, not there though. Well, yeah, it's kind of whitish. You can see I'm always putting it on one way and affecting it opposite from the way I put it on. Cast shadows make things sit down. So you sit down, darn you. Don't float in midair on me. That made it sit down a little bit better. By having light go in back of an object, like here, suddenly it jumps it out. So I've been putting things on one way and influencing it opposite from the way I put it on in the first place. One thing you're going to do is you're going to get good coverage. How many of you have ever had to paint a room? Don't you kind of put it on this way and go up and down and smooth it in? We very often are frightened by the awesome thing that painting is about. We feel as though something else does it, except instead of just some practical horse sense. Be clever about it instead of frightened. You have nothing to fear. Mm-hmm. Yeah, could get it all wrong, but look at the fun you've had. Woohoo. Let me step back from this and see what it looks like from a distance. Stepping back is such a valuable thing to do because you see it from a distance, and what have I seen from a distance? What I've seen is I feel as though everything looks as though it's going to fall off the table. So I'm going to raise this up. And in raising this up, I'm not going to just go to that line. I'm going to go into it. I'm not going to wreck it. I wreck it if I just go to it. It's much better to go into it and then repair it. See, then it looks as though it jumps forward. I wonder if I'm raising it enough. Yes, I'd like to raise it here too. And raise it over here without, I got to make sure I don't get a kiss. Go into it. I'll even enlarge it for the sake of making that correction more effective. And this doesn't seem to have a shadow under it either. And so here we are, again, with all the tone values in and the picture done. And next week, when we meet, I'm going to teach you the technique of the old masters, or maybe I really will teach you how to make soup. Hi, I'm Helen Van Wyk.